doing well and welcome back to my channel. If you're new, welcome. I'm Millie, a film and reading enthusiast, and I'm really glad you're here. So in today's video, we're going to be analyzing Bullet Train, the film. And honestly, I'm super excited, so let's just get into it. So first off, Bullet Train, the book, written by Kotara Isaka. First off, I am super sorry, and I profusely apologize to my Japanese speaking friends and my Japanese friends. If I am butchering these names and just in general the Japanese, I sincerely apologize. It is not my first language. Aside from that, let's talk about the book. The book. It follows multiple assassins that find themselves on the bullet train, Shinkansen. She got it? I'm sorry. A bullet train. So in the book, we are following Ladybug, where he should have a really simple snatch and grab job where he needs to get on this train, grab a suitcase, and get off at the next stop. But then he discovers that there are other assassins on the train, and he's at this point just trying to make it out alive. The book is really simple, but in a good way. Really easy and entertaining, and it's definitely entertaining. The characters, let's get into the characters. So we have our primary character, who's Ladybug. Mind you, in the book, each chapter is written from a different character's perspective, but the primary character we're following is Ladybug. And so with that said, Ladybug is just super witty, and he just accepts his bad luck. He's a very funny, refreshing, and pessimistic character in some sense, but it all stems from his experience with having historic bad luck. Next, we have my two favorite characters, Tangerine and Lemon. These two, I love these guys so much. For me, Tangerine and Lemon made the book. You have Tangerine, who is this very, like, as they say in the book, type A, who's just by the books, super strict. He's bookish. He's very chill and mellow. But then on the flip side, you have Lemon, who is chaotic and just loves what he does and is just chaos incarnate, and he's constantly referring to Thomas and Friends, the train show, like for kids. His world is built around that. When he thinks about people, when he analyzes people, it's always like, which Thomas and Friends train are they? But he's actually very analytical, and he's very sharp, and he's very good at reading people and figuring out like what they are, who they are, what motivates them, all that good stuff. And that ends up kind of getting him in trouble later on in the game, when he kind of, in the book and in the movie. In the book, their chapters are titled Fruit. I just love that. But the dynamic between Tangerine and Lemon, it's a really nice balance. Their banter, their back and forth became extremely enjoyable for me, because you just have the chaotic nature of Lemon combined with the calm, mellow Tangerine, and so they bounce off each other really well. And then you have the prince. Let me tell you, I despised the prince, and I mean it in the best possible way. I mean it in the sense that he's just such a grotesque, ugly, psychotic, sociopathic character that I'm just like, he's 14, okay? He's 14, and I wanted this boy to die. I wanted this child to get got. Like, someone need to whoop his ass, because I can't stand this kid. And the thing is that like the prince really is like a psychopath. Like, he doesn't directly kill people, but he kind of finagles these situations where people end up dying as a result of his actions in some respect, and he enjoys it. First off, the prince is really smart. He's really smart, but he wants people who undermine him and think little of him because of his age, because he's a child. He wants them to just feel like the deepest despair humanly possible. He's pretty much like a mob boss at his school. Like, the kid is horrible. He's a horrible human being. But with that said, he's also very philosophical as well. He has this very analytical take on the world, and he's seeing the power dynamics. He's seeing those mechanisms play out in society and amongst his family and amongst like adults and children and teachers and students, and gleans how power works and how you can use your position to manipulate people, how you can use information to manipulate people. That ultimately ends up creating this really disgusting person that just uses and abuses people with complete disregard. So the prince, yeah, he's a great character. Like, he's very well written, and I think that's a testament to the author. He really, made this character as despicable as possible. Then you have Kimura, who is a single father alcoholic, like a really bad alcoholic, who's dealing with his son being in a coma because he was pushed off of a roof. And so he is someone who used to be an assassin, and then when he finds out that the prince is the one who pushed his son off the roof, and throughout the book there's this constant back and forth in history between the prince and Kimura. He's just like, I'm about to get this kid. Like, old habits die hard. I'm about to get this kid. A lot of the scenes with Kimura are backflashes of him interacting with the prince when, in this random turn of events that happened before present day when they're all on the bullet train. And that's really it. Like, I think Kimura, out of all the characters, is pretty flat. And then the big character that we hear but don't really see much in the book is Minagashi. And Minagashi is that dude, all right? Like, Minagashi is the biggest crime boss in Japan. Minagashi is that dude where he needs a reason not to kill you. And I think that's a line in the film, and I thought it was genius because I was like, yeah, that really puts it in perspective, the kind of person you're dealing with. So as far as the plot. So I was surprised how in the beginning how a bit slow it was. It's very dialogue heavy, I will say that. You learn a lot about the characters and their background and who they are and their past experiences through the dialogue that they're having with each other. So the first half of the book is very dialogue heavy. There are a few action scenes here and there, but it's a lot of setup the first half. The second half of the book is really when things start to kick off, and there's a lot of action, and all these players we've learned about individually that have kind of been in their own bubbles on the train start to come together, and we get to see teams form and people work together and people kill each other and accidents happen and all this different stuff, right? So the second half of the book, it really picks up. The plot overall, because of how it was written, where each chapter was dedicated to a specific character, it wasn't really predictable. I feel like all the characters were unpredictable enough that you really didn't know what they were going to do next. And I think the author was really strategic in that, as far as doing a lot of showing instead of telling. The book is a murder mystery too. So the whole reason a lot of this is happening is because Minagashi's son was kidnapped, and the people who kidnapped him were trying to bribe Minagashi, and Minagashi ends up hiring Tangerine and Lemon, and he gives them the suitcase full of money and says, go get my son, bring back the money, and kill all the people that are there. Like, in that order of priority, pretty much. And so now we have Tangerine and Lemon who are on the train with Minagashi's son, with the suitcase that Ladybug has been tasked with stealing, and ultimately Minagashi's son ends up dead somehow, some way. All that we know is that Tangerine and Lemon are screwed. Everyone has their own story in some respect. You have Ladybug, who's trying to steal this suitcase and just get off the train. You have Tangerine and Lemon, who's trying to get Minagashi's son and this suitcase to Minagashi. You have the prince and Kimura, and pretty much the prince has blackmailed Kimura into being his minion, so that the prince can go to Minagashi's compound and attempt to kill him because Minagashi didn't take him seriously. So those are like the main 3 storylines that we're following. And there are some other ones here and there, but you know, it's very unpredictable in that sense. You don't know what's going to happen next, and I really enjoyed that. With that said, I think the writing style is very simple. I mean, it's action. It's action and it's satire. It's very punchy. The action scenes were written really, really well. And the characters are great. I mean, the characters really just make this book for me. And this isn't a book where we're looking for character development. Like, this isn't that. This is just entertainment and fun. That's all we're looking for, right? So now that we've talked about the book, I really want to get into the movie. Like, let's just get into the movie, because I was thoroughly surprised, happily surprised. I was happily surprised. I don't even know where to start, really. First question we want to ask is, what makes a good adaptation? Everybody has their own idea. This is mine. I believe that a good adaptation is something that captures the heart and soul of the book, of the source material. Can the film make me feel how the book made me feel? And it's also, creative liberties are taken in adaptation. Some things don't translate over well to film. It's a completely different medium. With that said, the adaptation was just so different. It was so different, but in the best possible way. First off, there were some major plot differences. I don't want to spoil it too much because I really want you guys to see it if you haven't seen it. There are some major plot differences. The book is very much focused on Minagashi and this world that he created, but in the movie there's a brand new villain, and the players, the characters line up very differently. We still have all the major characters, but how they all come together in the movie is very different, which is cool. And I think how they did it, how they orchestrated that, how they changed the narrative worked in a really good way. They changed the background for some of the characters as well, specifically the wolf. I loved the background they did for the wolf, because in the book, the wolf is just kind of like this grimy, just crappy dude who just beats up kids and women. In the movie, the wolf is very much just this kid who grew up with nothing. He's making his way up in life. He joins a cartel and he just goes up from there. And the reason he ends up on the train and ends up fighting Ladybug is for a completely different reason than what happened in the book. And it's just, I really enjoyed the changes they made to the wolf's character. They just made him way more likable. They changed the story just enough. They changed the story just enough where it worked. And the ending in particular, the climax, I'd say the last 20 minutes of the film, completely different. But it's still really, really enjoyable. Like, I really, really loved it. I was cracking up in the theater. I was laughing, and I genuinely enjoyed myself while watching this compared to previous adaptations I've seen. I have to give huge props to the cast. They couldn't have cast anyone better. I'm looking at my cast list. You had Brad Pitt as Ladybug, Joey King as the Prince, Aaron Taylor Johnson as Tangerine, Brian Tyree Henry as Lemon, Andrew Koji as Kimura. They killed it. Brian and Aaron, the dynamic they played as Tangerine and Lemon, it translated so well. I loved every scene Brian and Aaron had together as Tangerine and Lemon. They just absolutely killed those two characters for me, no pun intended. They were amazing. Joey King, I think she did a really good Prince. I mean, mind you, the Prince is a boy in the book, but I didn't really care that they had a girl as the Prince. But I feel like they could have done more as far as getting more into just like how psychotic the Prince is, because he really is just unhinged in a calm, cool, collected kid way. And that didn't really translate over, but I also think that's one thing where in the book you get a lot of background and flashbacks with the prince, and this, you just couldn't do that with the film. There just wasn't a lot of time. And then we had Brad Pitt as Ladybug. He was really good. Like, he was believable, and he was really witty, and I've always been a huge fan of Brad Pitt. I've loved him in Troy and Legends of the Fall and Mr. Black and Mr. and Mrs. Smith. And so to see him now in this role where he's kind of just this quirky assassin who's got bad luck and he's dealing with all this stuff, and it was really good. It was really, really good. Let's move on to production. Oh my God, you guys. The production of this film is amazing. It's amazing. I have to give props to the director, David Leitch. I don't know if I'm saying his last name right, so sorry about that. But I have to give props to him because he directed Atomic Blonde. I absolutely love that movie. Charlize Theron is amazing in that movie. The action sequence, the cinematography, the editing. Oh, it's so good. If you've seen Atomic Blonde, you know what I'm talking about. He directed Deadpool 2. He's been a part of all the John Wick movies, and I love the John Wick movies. Like, this is a man who knows what he's doing. This is a man who's been in action. He's done action. It's his bag. He's experienced. We are in good hands here. The script was great. I mean, mind you, they changed a lot, but it worked. The editing was really fun and punchy. Honestly, the film reminded me a lot of Quentin Tarantino's works, where you have that really punchy dialogue and really witty banter that goes back and forth, and then you have these quick cuts throughout the film. It was all just very Tarantino-esque, which I really, really liked. The lighting and the color palette. Yeah. The lighting and the color palette of the set were amazing. So just look at this shot. Look at this shot. You got Brad Pitt as Ladybug. You got Bad Bunny as the wolf. Love that surprise. But look at the color scheme, you guys. Look at this beautiful, like, aquamarine, teal color. You got the shadows and everything. You got the gold over here. You got it's beautiful. It's beautiful. You can see the reflections off of his suit jacket and off the briefcase. Like, this whole scene was amazing. And and it's like that for most of the film. Like, here we have this one. They had a whole train car dedicated to this fictional character with the pinks and the graffiti and the blue and the neon lights across the top, and this, obviously, like, the suit character and the seats and the lighting on the floor with the zigzags and stuff. Like, come on, man. But this set is absolutely beautiful, and it's like this for most of the shots. Like, even here, just the snack bar one. Like, come on, look at that. Like that's amazing. Even this one, like, we can keep going. And it's just awesome to see what they were able to do with the sets. They were absolutely beautiful. They took something that could be really boring, a train, and made it super vibrant and moody and exciting and just fun. Like, you really notice the sets, so props to them for the set design. And one thing they also did, they had these huge LED screens that ran on both sides of the train, and before they actually started production, the crew actually rode the train and filmed the scenery of the train route. So on set, not only did the actors have, this amazing set, but they also had the actual scenery of the actual train route playing through these windows. So we talked about lighting, we talked about set and locations, we talked about editing, we talked about the color scheme, the color palette. It's very neon, it's very bright, it's very, like, you think Japan, you think neon bright colors. It was very, very much that. Let's talk about the cinematography. The cinematography, again, very Quentin Tarantino-esque, but the fight scenes reminded me a lot of the Rush Hour fight scenes with Jackie Chan, and just kind of how funky they were. Like, they were humorous in their own way. Specifically, I'm thinking about the fight scene when Jackie Chan is in the men's bathhouse in the first Rush Hour. That whole sequence is just an iconic scene, and the fighting sequences in particular felt a lot like that. It definitely, to me, the best fight sequences in cinematography are from the film The Raid. Specifically The Raid 2. If you haven't seen either of those, definitely check them out. They're amazing films. But the fight scenes were really, really good and witty and punchy, and they used a lot of the environment, which I really loved. The costume design. The costume design, it evolved as the film progressed, which I liked, because at the very beginning of the film, everybody's pretty clean. But as the film progresses and people get into more fights, their clothes just get muckier and dirtier and bloodier and just torn and ripped and everything, and it's just a mess. It's absolutely a mess. All right, so let's talk about visual effects. This film was very visual effects heavy. Surprisingly visual effects heavy, especially once you get to the end of the film. Like I said, the climax, last 20-25 minutes of it, very vis effects heavy. And it was one of those things where it did look a bit muddy at times, especially at the end. It did look a bit muddled, and it looked like they were trying to do a lot, and they were. I'll give them that. They were trying to do a lot. I think the lighting, especially towards the end, it got funky, and you could just, there were moments where you can just tell, like, oh, this is green screen or blue screen or whatever, and it just didn't blend as well. And so now that we've made it to the end, let's give my final thoughts on Bullet Train, the book, and how it did as an adaptation. So the book, I think the book is really cool. It's simple, it's easy, you don't have to think too hard about it. If you want something that's just an easy read with some action and great humor and some philosophical moments, definitely check it out. I'm curious to see what else the author has written, and I really enjoyed it. It was an easy, lighthearted read. The film, I love the film. The film was so good. It was so funny and humorous, and it was just witty, and there was a lot of action, and the characters were great. The background story they did for the characters were great. Like I mentioned before, the editing, cinematography, character settings, all that stuff, really, really well done. The actors were phenomenal. Actors were so phenomenal. Tangerine and Lemon definitely have my heart. They stole it in the book. They completely stole it in the movie. You know, this movie showed me more than anything that an adaptation can be amazing and be completely different from the book. Like, this adaptation, the film captured the heart and soul of the book, and though they completely changed the narrative and the overarching story, it worked really, really well. And and they were able to keep the soul of the book, which is really what matters. And so yes, with my criteria of did the movie make me feel how the book made me feel, yes, the movie made me feel really, really good, just like the book did, and I really enjoyed both. So I'd highly recommend checking out the movie if you haven't already. I think you're really gonna enjoy it. I think you're gonna just love it as much as I do, and really just appreciate the hard work that the cast and crew and everyone put into it, because it really is, I think it's one of the better adaptations I've seen, even with all the changes that they made. All right, so that's all I have for you guys today. Let me know what you guys think about the book. Did you read it? What do you think about the film? Are you going to see the film? I really hope you do. Seriously, it's an amazing film. You don't have to read the book to have seen the film. It's just a good time. It really is just a good time. Also, let me know in the comments if there's any adaptations you would like to see in the future, whether they're going to be made or whether they've already been made. I don't know, you might see it in a future video, but that's my 2 cents. That's all I have for you guys. So until next time, I hope you guys have a good day. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys later. Bye!